Hello and welcome to a live Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. First of all, thank you to all of the regular viewers for being patient with us today. We're starting at 2 o'clock. We're starting an hour late, so if you're watching this later, it doesn't matter much to you. But for the regulars, I apologize and I appreciate your patience. I had errands to run with the renovation and everything going on today, and I'm also very glad that my guest could come at this time. Please welcome. Some of you know her. Please welcome Jennifer Richardson, aka Lil Ragamuffin. How are you, lady?
I'm well, thank you.
It's
Glad
so
to be
good
here.
to see you. You look great.
Thank you. So do you. I love your hat.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's the feel good hat.
Is that a
So
smiley face?
it is a smelly face.
Okay. I like it
Yeah,
even more.
yeah. I've got the frowny face for other days. I'm kidding.
No,
I don't have. I just have this
no
one.
bad days. All good vibes.
All good vibes. So, for anyone new, I have an old interview. One of the first ones I did on this channel, on my new channel, was with Lil Ragamuffin and several knitters who went through cancellations. Lil Ragamuffin is a seamstress, and I've interviewed her a couple times. She went through a cancellation a few years ago where people were, we don't have to relive the whole thing, but
No.
the essence, I love telling new people because they're always like, wait, what? That was it? They can't try to cancel her because the mob came for her because she had a sewing pattern, a Western shirt for men that was called the Good Old Boy. All of her patterns have names. And it started much like some of the ones in the yarn world where somebody said, that's problematic. And here's why. And that's inherently racist. And here's why. And ultimately, you took time to think about it. You took a few days to actually consider what they were saying. And you came back and said, no, I don't think it is. And I'm not going to do the forced apology.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
And it
Just because I
didn't,
didn't know either. I didn't know. I didn't understand what they were talking about. So I wanted to look at it myself
right.
instead of just hearing from what everybody was saying. I'm like, okay, let's just take a second and, you know, dissect this.
Yes. And it was also true, wasn't it, that several of your volunteers who sew the patterns, some of the women who sew the patterns and their husbands who model for the pictures were Black, but that didn't seem
It
to
didn't
matter.
matter. No, and then they just said that they were tokenized, but they were on there like way before. Like that happened a year after the pattern was out. Then they started coming out of the crazy woodwork or whatever. So it was already set. It was already there. It was already part of my business for a year before the cancellation stuff started.
Yes. And so again, we don't have to go through the whole thing, but just some of the craziest highlights. I mean, to
Highlights,
this day,
low
much like
lights. No.
the lowlights, just much like Maria Tuscan from Tuscan Knits, who did something equally innocuous, that caused them to pile on and demand an apology when she didn't. Much like her, they've come after you to this day. They try and smear your name and defame you and call you a white supremacist and a racist and um, come to your
Yeah,
page and you just
it's
continue
not so
this.
much anymore. It's like
Yeah,
it's fallen away a lot, especially this last year since I don't have a real business anymore. But that's another story for another day.
yeah,
Um, and so like there's really nothing for them to go after. So it's fine. And if they come, you just ignore them. You just swat them away. You just like go be on your way, and you ignore them. That's the best advice. Just
that's the
ignore the
best.
trolls.
So one final note on this story, which again, if you guys want to hear more details about, you can check out that How to Survive a Cancellation Mob. It was one of the first videos I did on this channel with Little Ragamuffin and several knitters who had gone through cancellations. Let's end it on this note. What was one thing you learned through it?
Everybody has their own perspective on everything. And that's not like mind blowing, but to be patient and to deal with things gracefully and with love because they come from a place that they're in and you're not in that place. So even though they're being nasty and horrible to you, it doesn't benefit you or them to repay that in the same way. So you just either ignore it or be kind or whatever you can do other than be nasty back because there's no point in that. It doesn't help anybody. And especially doesn't help your business. It just makes you look like a jerk.
That's great. That's great advice. And you know what? To me, that sounds like the kind of wisdom that takes a few years to acquire. Like in the moment, you don't have that. it's high emotions, fear, and all the things. And you're several years out from this now, so that's like the benefit of experience and wisdom.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever. I just have a really hard time saying mean things to people, even when they piss me off. I can in my head go, "That wasn't so good. That wasn't so nice of you." But at the same time, I'm like, I still love you.
Oh, I don't have
It's upside down.
I don't have that problem. I do for some. It just depends. It depends. It depends entirely on the person. Okay, so but I brought you on today because you've got an event that we want to let people know about. And it's in Nashville, but people are also traveling there, and you have hotel. And here, why don't I put it on the screen? You can tell people a little bit about this.
Yeah, so the event is coming off of a canceled event. So the reason this one is free, when you look at the tickets, you're gonna be like, "What the heck is she doing?" It's because the original event, won't name the company, but I've been working with them on and off, mostly just sending them stuff from afar. Last year, I did teach at one of their events. They have been around for about 6 years or maybe 7. So these are established events and they are planned out like a year in advance. People are buying tickets, people are signing up for classes, they're taking money for about a year from people going into these events. I was supposed to teach in Nashville. I had a couple classes I was scheduled to teach at, and last week, I think it's been 10 days now, the company abruptly canceled and said they were going to do a virtual event and it wasn't happening. And so I immediately canceled my flight. I flipped out a little. I was like, I got all this stuff. And then I realized I couldn't cancel my Airbnb and I couldn't cancel a bunch of things. So I went on and I just said, hey, anybody that in their group, I said, anybody that can't cancel anything, if you're stuck going and there's no event, let's see what we can do. And from that spawned this. It's sort of a grassroots event, and it's growing. And we are having sewing classes all weekend. I think I have like 13 classes lined up right now, and I'm waiting to hear back from a couple more. We will have we have a lot of stuff. It's so fun. So
okay, so
ignoring
all the cancellation stuff that happened before, what do people need to know about? Now, I'm glad to have that background, but so people aren't confused. If they want to come to this event, this is the link. It's an Eventbrite, and I'm going to drop it in the chat. And is it if they didn't already have, like, it says $0, so when they go to buy tickets, like, how much is it?
It's okay. It is $0. I led leading up to that, the whole story, because people have paid so much already, thousands and thousands of dollars, that they are not being refunded, or some are actually. I saw yesterday some are like, "Hey, I got a refund." I don't want to charge anybody anything that's already paid that much money to go. So it is $0, or you can choose by donation. Fill in the amount you want. I'll take your dollar. I'll take your $10 million. I don't care. And then the other option is $25 flat fee. So that's to come and attend. The classes.
It's just a $25 flat fee.
Unless you want to pay more, then you can donate, because most of the people that are already coming have already paid so much, and they're broke from it,
Right.
So it's kind of just a gesture to the sewing community as well, because I am in a position where I can help, so I'm going to help, and I was already scheduled to be there. I'm losing like the income from teaching and all the things like this. I'm not a unique story. This is everybody that is involved with this. So it's
for fun.
Yeah. And the classes are free, most of them.
So it's August 29th through September 1st. It's a $25 flat fee. The link is in the chat, and I'll also edit this video and put it in the description. They've got 2 classrooms. They're going to be doing sewing classing, crafting classing. They have vendors, and you can fill out this form if you're interested in becoming one of those vendors. If you're in Nashville, they have discount room rates.
There's no fee to be a vendor either, because the vendors also paid fees to the other company.
Got you.
So they're out that vendor fee as well. So you want to come set up, make money, that's all you got to do. I just need to know, so I only have so much space.
So this, if I could get away, and if I were there, I would totally be there. I know people are excited about it. We'll mention this again at the end. For any of the knitters, for any of the crocheters, they do have, if you're coming in from out of town for the social club event in Nashville, they do have discount rooms on hotels. It's also in that Eventbrite link. So
yeah, and the discount room ends Monday. I just talked to the coordinator this morning at the hotel, and she's like, "Get your people, get the hotel rooms." There's only 2 queen bed rooms left, so 2 double queens or whatever, 2 rooms to that, or 2 beds to those rooms, and then the king beds are what's left. So if you're going to share a room, a lot of people come and they buddy up. You're going to be stuck sleeping in a king bed with your friend.
and it's only the hotel that you guys have secured is only a 5-minute walk from the venue.
From the original. Yeah, no, it is
Oh,
the original venue. Yeah, so some of the
Got
information
you.
might be a little confusing if you don't know
Okay.
the whole background, but it's very close to the original venue. But we are on site with classes.
You're on site at the hotel. Okay.
Yeah, the only place we are off site is Smart Art. I would like to just mention them before I forget and we get involved. Smart Art and Craft Supplies is our sponsor. They are a nonprofit and they have opened their classroom to us all weekend at zero charge. They're amazing. Wow. And they're putting together welcome bags for everybody. They're doing a lot to help. I really appreciate them. And if you guys are in the Nashville area, go support them because they're awesome.
Oh, that's the one. It says is only 5 minutes from the hotel.
Gotcha. Yeah. And we're going to shuttle people. So I myself will have a car and there's like 2 other people I know for sure. We're going to shuttle people back and forth because we all have sewing machines. You don't want to walk down the street with your sewing machines. It is not just a sewing event either. So my knitters out there, you can come and teach a class and attend.
Well, it sounds awesome. I'm going to leave this up and we'll come back to it. So when you said you have this event, you wanted to let people know about it, I said, do you want to come on and talk about Kamala Harris? And you said, I don't really follow politics.
I live in a tunnel underground in Antarctica, basically, is I think what I told you or something. So I just shut the world out. I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't know.
It's okay. I said that's perfect, actually, because a lot of people probably don't want to follow politics right now. I don't want to follow politics. I find myself being forced to more often because of the talking about woke in the world, which is the purpose of this show, is trying to dispel all the myths about my old belief system, social justice or woke. And most of the time we're focused more on culture, I would say, cultural issues, cancel culture, faux victimization and bullying that people in that belief system do, the racism that they push, stuff like that. We're more focused on cultural issues, but I can't help but we can't help but look at politics now with the election and things that are coming up, and so much of the news cycle, so much of the cultural events are now colliding with politics. So anyway, the point being, it's okay that you're not following, because I think it's great, because I'm going to show you some clips and I can get your authentic reaction to some of these.
Well, I do have to admit, yesterday I was like, I should look at some sort of news. So I listened to Roseanne Barr podcast.
Oh, how was it? How was it?
I thought I chose the recent one, but it was like 2 weeks ago. So I still don't know what's current. But it was really good. And I also learned that Dolly might be a clone, which I'm sad about. That's what she was talking about. Dolly Parton is a clone.
Oh, isn't that a joke? That's a joke about the sheep. Dolly the sheep. Yeah.
No, it was about Joe Biden and Dolly Parton. She was saying there's clones out there.
Okay. Roseanne Barr.
So that's what I've learned.
Well, thanks. I think she's funny. That sounds like it could be a joke to me. Anyway, we're not talking about any crazy QAnon stuff here. So I've got this quote pulled up. I wanted to start with this. Now I'm just going to present some stuff to you and to the chat. And you guys, let me know what you think about this. If there are new people here, welcome, especially people from the left. If you're curious or interested, I'll say one quick thing before we get into this. It's actually, I think there's a slight change happening with the woke. And if you tell me if you think the same in the chat. I have noticed this. If I want to get the pulse of people, I don't go to Twitter usually. I go to X to see what's actually happening in the world. I go to Facebook to see kind of the mood of people who are a little more on the left or in the normal norm. I put normal in quotes, normal mainstream society who listen to all the echo chamber news and the propaganda. I go there. There seem to be more of them there who are in my feed anyway, and who for some reason are still friends with me. And so I can kind of get the sense of a little bit better of what people are thinking culturally. And here's what I'm saying. Tell me if you've noticed this. It seems to me that the woke are they're frustrated more than they used to be. They're angry. I think somebody said it, maybe it's fear underneath. They seem to be a little frustrated that their old tactics of calling us all transphobes and projecting and calling us racist and stuff isn't working as well. The cancel mobs are still trying to do these things, but they're not as effective. There are more people now willing to call this out. There are more people willing to say, hey, like in the Olympics this week, having a man box a woman is, why are we doing this? This is not a good idea. She had to drop out after 46 seconds. Like, he could do much more than crush her Olympic dreams. There are more people willing to say this, and despite what they're being called. And so I think their old tactics are not working as well. And there seems to be kind of a shift where I've even had some of them reaching out to me, asking questions, also attacking and insulting, but at least asking questions. I think they're more curious, like, what is this? They're almost looking at the people who are pushing back against woke and starting to say, oh, it's not just, I think they thought some of us just went crazy or something. That's what some people thought about me. Oh, Keri went crazy. She left the woke world. But now they're starting to say, oh, this is a lot of people. Have you noticed this at all? Or
I've noticed very little. I mean, I do feel it, but I don't look at too much stuff. But I think if you put it in the dynamics of an abusive relationship, so when the abusive tactics stop working, they get desperate and they try really hard, and then they just become more irrelevant to you once you realize you're being abused.
yes.
Like, so that's what's happening. Like, they're just pushing so hard because they're like grasping at straws. They don't know what else to do. They're losing control over your emotions, or losing
Yes.
control over all of your things that they used to be like, push button, do thing,
Yes.
and now it's not happening. So they're like, what do we do?
Yes.
Next thing is higher level, and they just look even more ridiculous.
Yes. This is what I've noticed, at least on Facebook a lot, is that they come in, they still try and do the things, call me the names, do whatever. It doesn't work. And that's the case for more and more people. And I think that's starting to scare them. That's just my gut. It's
Yeah,
I don't have high hopes for election integrity, but I have high hopes for the reality-based movement.
Well,
Okay.
how do you feel about this real quick? Election integrity. I plan on probably not voting.
What?
Now,
No.
I know. What? I don't want to. I don't want to. It's not the individual as well, kind of. But it's also in the past, 2 times I've tried to vote. Well, I voted 3 elections. The first one, I should say I attempted to vote in 3 elections. The first one was an Obama election, and I showed up at the polling place, first time voting, and he said, "You're not registered." And I said, "Here's my card." He said, "I don't have you here." So I was turned away and I couldn't vote. Next time I voted, the next one was the last one. I showed up, I voted, everything was cool. And then it was never counted. It ended up showing up on my voter stance as provisional ballot, which wasn't provisional. It said provisional ballot is when you have on-site changes. So if I change my address or anything, to do with my voting status on site, didn't happen. And it still to this day says provisional ballot, never counted. So I'm kind of pissed.
Wait, so what does that have to do with you not voting this election?
I don't feel like my time is worth it. Like, I'm going to go there and it's not going to matter.
Look, it's up to you.
Yeah,
I don't care
just
what
throwing it out there.
but other people do. But somebody in the chat says I quit voting. Resend says I quit voting. It's a rigged game. Look, I understand. Here's my thoughts on it for me. I understand the apathy because I don't trust the system and I do think it's rigged. However, I also have this rebellious kind of streak in me where I think that's their point, is they want to make us apathetic and they want us to think it doesn't matter. And so my view is, you're not going to turn me into a non-voter. I'm going to vote anyway. I'm going to vote for the felon, and I'm going to try and make it harder for you to rig things. I want the split between them to be so large that it's harder for them to dump votes, that they really have to work for it to cheat. And so that's my opinion on it. That's why I can't wait. I can't wait to vote this November.
Okay,
for
fine.
the
You
felon.
shamed me. You shamed me into it. I'll vote.
Yeah, you're not gonna turn me into a non-voter. Screw you guys. Like, I think that's what they want. Anyway, okay, let me bring this up.
Okay.
I want to start with this quote. So this is a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. and I titled today's episode Kamala the Communist because I do believe she's a communist. And I'll be explaining why. A lot
What
of
did I
times,
sign up for? No, I'm kidding.
yeah, a lot of times leftists are like, "What do you mean?" And she's not yes, she is. Most of the Democratic Party is now full on communist. It's part of the reason I left. This is my opinion. I'm not saying Lil Ragamuffin agrees with me, but let me present a couple things and then we'll see what you guys think. So, this is a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. All communist parties, upon attaining power, have become completely merciless. But at the stage before they achieve power, it is necessary to use disguises. This is a great quote. If you don't know who Alexander Solzhenitsyn is, he would be one to know, and you should know who he is. I think this is exactly what we're seeing in the West now. They don't call themselves communists. The ones who do, there are some who do, and those people are fringe and nobody takes them seriously. But the ones who are controlling the media, who are controlling politics, who are controlling education, academia, corporations, even, they are a mutated type of Marxist. We call them woke. It's my old belief system, social justice. It's Marxism, but it's based around identity and power rather than around class and wealth. But at the end of the day, they have the same goals as the old school Marxists. They believe that the way to operate in the world is to view the world as a struggle for power between identity groups and to seize power and redistribute it based on identity rather than on class. They do it on identity. They want to seize power and redistribute it. One of the ways in which they do this and that they push this is equity. Let me show you this. Let me show you this clip first. So Kamala Harris is a big supporter of equity. And equity is not equality. Equity is equality of outcome. It's saying we want to make sure everyone ends up in the same place. In fact, she says this multiple times. We want to take things from some people and give it to other people because we believe they're not starting in the same place. And so we want to actually discriminate under law. We want to seize things and give it to some, take it from some and give it to others. So here, let's hear her say some of this, and then we'll talk about what it means. And I'm going to get your opinion on some of it. Now, you might. This is interesting because I don't know. You might disagree with me on some stuff.
Everything. No.
Okay, here we go. Can you guys see that on the screen? No, there we go. So this is her, in her own words, talking about equality versus equity and admitting that they are different.
So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests, oh, everyone should get the same amount. The problem with that, not everybody's starting out from the same place. So if we're all getting the same amount, but you started out back there and I started out over here, we could get the same amount, but you're still gonna be that far back behind me. It's about giving people the resources and the support they need so that everyone can be on equal footing and then compete on equal footing. Equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place.
Oh. Okay, what are your thoughts on that, just to start?
My thoughts are she is, or whomever is actively robbing that person of a lot of life experience to grow in those field of flowers that brought them up to the top level, the equal footing. They're being robbed of a lot of wisdom that they could have and a lot of strength and endurance that they would need to acquire to get to that place. The other person may not have such a great character because they've had it maybe easier, so they haven't had to build that inside themselves. So that's kind of stupid to be like.
I couldn't agree more. I think it is condescending. It's the bigotry of what was it called? The soft bigotry of low expectations of people. It's condescending. It robs people of agency and the ability to grow. It actually turns people into dependents on the government. And
they don't get
on
that.
Others.
They don't get to build that inside themselves. They just it's been given to them. Then nobody should have anything given to them.
And if we look at how this concept of what she's talking about, racial equity, how that plays out in law, if you want to look at practically what they mean by that, you can look at the recent Supreme Court decision that ruled against racial equity, that said, hey, what we've been doing is wrong. You can't discriminate against Asian students because they're Asian. And that's what has been happening for years, is universities have been discriminating against Asian students and to some degree white students, and promoting other applicants who have lower scores, who have less merit-based reasons to be there, selecting them simply because of their race or their sex, or whatever other identity characteristics, the identity groups they select, which are in the so-called marginalized groups. They've been selecting them for those reasons, and the Supreme Court said, "Hey, you have to stop this. This is discrimination in the law, and we can't allow it."
Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible stance. It's just terrible all around. Yeah.
Thank you to Savrix in the chat. Thank you, Savrix, for the super chat for 1999. Says, those who dispersed around the globe can now absorb the technology and culture of those nations. The more guilt and compassion felt by those nations' populations will make this cultural absorption become more absolute. I have to think about this one a little more, Savrix. Those who dispersed around the globe can now absorb the technology and culture of those nations. The more guilt and compassion felt by those nations' populations will make this cultural absorption become more absolute. I have to think about this one a little bit more about what you're saying. If you want to clarify, you don't have to put it in a super chat. You can just put it in the chat. But thank you very much for supporting the channel. Eric Heffelfinger for $10. Thank you for the super chat. Says, equal isn't possible even with the same footing and start. My sisters are more successful than me. We grew up in the same home with the same parents, the same school, same opportunities, similar hobbies. Yes.
That's because they're women.
No. Well, according to Kamala, it's because of women. No, this is exactly true. Is there's no such thing as there's equality in the law, meaning that's something we try to achieve in the law. We try to say, hey, we're gonna treat people as individuals. We're not gonna treat them differently based on race or sex or sexuality. We're gonna treat them as individuals equally under the law. That's equality. But in terms of where people end up, you can't control for that unless you're a communist. And you think you can, and even then you're going to fail. You'll make us all equal in the rubble. Because if you start punishing people for merit, which is what they're doing, they discriminate against people for merit, for being the best at something. Well, now you're going to get punished because of your race or sex or whatever immutable characteristic we're going to choose where we say you're the oppressor. You're getting punished for merit. That's an attempt to make us all equal in the rubble.
Equal in the rubble. I like that. That's funny.
I think he's clarifying, Jen. Savrix from 1999.
Yeah, because I need help too.
Okay, he says, you'll notice this transformation is overwhelming under the guise of philanthropy and the name of, quote, I'm doing a good thing, end quote. I suggest more evil has been done in the name of I'm doing a good thing than actual good. Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree. Because then this brings me back to another Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote where he talks about how evildoers always need the cover of ideology. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly, but he says evildoers need the cover of ideology to do evil. They need the cover of pretending they're doing it in the name of good. It's
wolves in sheep's clothing. It's like biblical. Like it is exactly what that's. So the Bible itself is a representation of humanity. It is not just the Bible. So when you like psychology, before psychology, people used to just reference the Bible. So everything they're saying, you can find it in scripture as well.
Yes. It's the same. This is why understanding abusers, understanding narcissists, people with cluster B personality disorders, I think is so helpful to understanding evil ideology, to understanding ideology that has some of those same characteristics.
I think that's what I think most importantly, we need to start looking at, is this evil or is this good? Is this positive or negative? And just start viewing things in that way instead of woke and right and left and all those labels can be all just put under two categories, positive or negative, good or bad. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have to have all these subcategories because it's really just about good and evil when it comes down to it.
I agree with you.
Thank
Sometimes
you.
I think I do agree. Sometimes it's necessary. I've started thinking about it a lot more that way, the way you're talking about light and dark. But when talking with people who are so entrenched in their belief system, like my old belief system, they don't. I think you almost have to meet them on that ground and battle against woke itself and show them how it's bad because they can't hear, and a lot of them don't want to hear anything about God or good or evil, and some of them are moral relativists, and they say there's no such thing as good and evil, that everything is that's just a social construction, that we say some things are good, some things are bad. Some of them really say this to do evil, of course.
Yeah, it's true.
Randy Wallen for $9.99. Thank you, Randy. He says, "Hi, Keri. Hi, Jen. Never forget communism is a cancer. The devil ain't gonna show up with a sickle and a hammer. He'll be in the form of resentment, ego, pride, jealousy, and false promises." That's kind
That's
of
the
what
other
you're
thing.
saying.
All things lead back to pride. It's all under that selfish category too. So, not to derail the conversation.
You're not
into
derailing it.
Bible stuff and
No,
humanity.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think it was most recently in book club we read the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, and even in his autobiography, he some of the stuff he was writing about reminded me of C.S. Lewis, but he was talking about pride and how it seems to be the hardest of all of his vices to conquer.
Yeah, it is. It's a hard thing. And I think that's like a huge problem too, is all these childrenless people running around. And not to say like, if you don't have kids, you're a bad person. Or if you can't have kids, you're a bad person. None of that. It's just the act of not having something to take care of that's outside yourself, a family. So like in that way, I think you become like less selfish. So when people are waiting till they're 20, in their late 20s and their 30s, and then they start having families or not families, you spend that time on yourself. It's all self, and when you don't do that, you have to look after this kid or whatever, dogs, cats, whatever. You need something outside yourself. Plants. My house is full of plants right now. I can't help myself but buy plants. And I have kids too. But you need to take care of something outside yourself. You need to look at the world from beyond you. And if you don't have something to thrust you into that, it is human nature to just be selfish and prideful.
Let me ask you something before I
Okay.
show the next clip of Kamala about equity. Given that you tend to stay out of the politics world recently, or you have been, were you aware of J.D. Vance? He's the vice presidential nominee on the Republican ticket. Were you aware of his recent comments about childless cat ladies?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Wait, what?
Okay. Because
At
this
least
is.
they have a cat. I'm
Yeah,
not
they
saying
do.
it.
They are taking
Cats are
care of cats.
independent. Cats are independent. They need a dog. A dog needs to be loved. A cat, you just leave a box out for it.
This is there's an
Oh my
episode,
gosh.
if you guys are curious, there's an episode a couple weeks back I covered this.
Funny.
Maybe it was last week. But yeah, Jen, he basically we watched on the show, we watched his full comments because they just cut one little part and we're taking it out of context. But his full comments were, he was saying, if you look at where we are today culturally, we have a lot of people running for office, people in politics, especially in the Democratic Party, who don't have families, who are well into their 50s, 40s, 50s without families. And he was saying they don't have the same stake in the future. Like they don't have a physical stake of investment in the future and how society turns out as someone who has a family. He's not saying they don't care or they shouldn't be able to
Right.
run. If you look at it in the full context, he was saying if you have a family or if you're trying to have a family, he even brought up women who have fertility issues. And he's like, I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about people who are trying to have families who have that forward looking view. I'm just saying, why do we have he was saying, why are there so many people in our world today now who are making decisions for the future who don't have that same stake in the future?
Yes.
That might
correct.
impact their views. Do you think he's right?
I just said that. I just said all of that. I feel like I should have known that he said that. I don't know. That's funny.
You got to look it up because they went crazy. They're still losing their minds over it. They're like, and people took offense. And I was like, look, I am a childless cat lady. Tiger identifies as a cat. Okay. And so, and I didn't take offense. I know what he means. He's not, because the little soundbite part was he called them childless cat ladies in politics.
Well, they're mad. They're mad. I can see why they're mad, because their selfishness is being brought on display. Their pridefulness is being brought on display, and it's gross. So they're mad because you're caught, like, when you shine a light on somebody's bad behavior, they have two choices. They can accept it and change it, or they can defend it and be like, try to put an end to what you're saying and make you discredit you. So they're going in that way. They're being nasty about it, which only proves his point.
Yes, that I think that's exactly the case. Is it the people who got offended by that? I rather think they are the ones he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like you could tell, and the ones who didn't, it's like I knew he wasn't. I don't count myself among what he's talking about. So, super based. Thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. Thanks for supporting the channel. I see Natalie here from Force Lake. Hey, lady. Okay, let me show you another one, Jen. Now, she talks about equity all the time, Kamala Harris. Equity is a communist value, taking things from some, redistributing it to others. The government forcibly doing this, taking your property, redistributing it, taking your property, taking your opportunities, taking things that you have earned and redistributing it to others. This is a communist value, and she loves it. The whole Democratic Party currently loves it. So let's hear her talk about it a few more times. And I think these are great because she's wearing a mask. Let's watch this one.
Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same.
So she starts off by saying equality often means everybody gets the same thing. What she's talking about is the same rights. They get treated the same. They get seen to be as an individual. They get treated as an individual. And then she's explaining why that's wrong. Because we have to ensure everybody ends up in the same place. What? Why would you want that? Why would you want the government forcing you to end up in the same place? If you look at Scandinavian countries, which are some of the most egalitarian countries in the world, and you look at for example, the professions that men and women choose, and these are countries where they have the greatest amount of choice, they don't end up in the same place. Men and women on average don't always choose the same things. You can see variations on average. In general, women choose often to work with people and animals. You see a lot more women end up in healthcare. You see a lot more women end up working as veterinarians, and you see a lot more men working in tech and working, jobs that require you to sit for 16 hours in front of a computer doing numbers like that. This is where people choose to end up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that seems on par with most, if you just break down men and women in general, like empathic and more structure based, or the techie guy versus the veterinarian woman, like she's a caregiver. That's just our natural place in life. Not to say that every woman has to be a caregiver, but it is just a natural for us because that's what we're meant for. So it makes sense. Yeah.
Women, we don't choose when given the greatest amount of choice, we don't choose the same. Jen, do you remember a few years ago, Google did this internal audit and they made a big deal about it. They publicized it. They said they assumed that because of the patriarchy and institutionalized sexism that they were paying their female engineers less than their males. And so they did this big whole thing about how they were going to do an internal audit and they were going to check and see what they're paying everyone and they're going to make it right. And do you remember this?
No.
Okay. And so what
going.
what they found was that they were actually paying their female engineers more than the men on average.
So do they also, because here's the thing, women don't think about, and when you're like, my pay is less, how dare you pay me less? How about your insurance costs more because you're a woman? And just the fact that you're a woman and could possibly have a kid while you work for that company, having a baby is like $20,000 to $40,000 depending on where you go, or more. They have to cover that. So there's medical costs that are different than men, right? So women don't take that in account when they're looking at their pay, and they get mad, my paycheck is less than yours. Well, that company is shelling out more to have you there in the long term than that guy.
If that happens, but what
Yeah.
they found was the opposite, that they were
Oh.
actually they found that they were paying the women more. It was the
Hey.
opposite of what they thought they were gonna find, and they were embarrassed publicly because they'd made a big deal about doing it, and it was the opposite of what they thought they were gonna find.
That's
But the other
funny.
thing is that they look at the numbers of women, like when they talk about women in STEM or places like Google, and they say, "Well, it's not 50-50. We need it to be 50-50%, 50% women working here." Do they ever question, like, do women wanna work there? Like, do you on average, like, is it are the women another interesting stat is that women who are the outliers, who are the let's say, the smartest on the bell curve of women, the women who are the brightest, who are the best at academic achievement. One interesting fact about these women is that they're often, if they're very highly skilled in math or science, they're also usually very highly verbally skilled. They're highly skilled in other areas, more so than the men who were high achievers in math and science, meaning they have more talents and gifts to choose from. And I saw this in action. A lot of the women who I went to school with at the science and math school, some of them ended up going into science and math and tech, but there's a lot more variation in the fields that they went into because they can choose from all these different things they're interested in and good at. So it's like, why are you saying that you need to take the best and brightest women and force them into STEM? Like, why? What if they don't
Well,
want to do that?
I can tell you a quick story about my daughter. So when she was going through school, she's a grown-up adult now. But when she was going through school, she was very, very, very just easy. Math just came naturally to her. And she would always be like first in the times test, and they had to create like a princess instead of a queen because she was queen like every week in math. So they put her in the gifted program to give her extra. And then in junior high, she was in math and science, junior high. And then through into high school, same thing, path. She wanted to be an engineer, an engineer, an engineer. We took her out to homeschool her. And within 6 months, she's like, yeah, I don't think I want to be an engineer. I think I don't like that. And she
Yeah.
started writing and she started baking and she just started doing other things because they're just so weighed down. Their time is sucked and they're given all these things in school. Now you feel like that's what you're going to do because that's all you know. And if they give these girls, like, that was the thing too. They're like, we need more girls in STEM. So they're pushing into the robotics programs and all these things. And when that happens, again, like they just don't have time to think for themselves. So if you give them the space to choose, like what you're saying, they may possibly decide, I don't really like math and science, or not that I don't like it, I don't want to do that with my life.
It's not the most enjoyable for me. Yeah.
It's not.
I went to the science and math school. I
Yeah.
majored in science at Duke. I ended up not doing that. It was like
Well, didn't you do the
there
science? Your science was animals, wasn't it? Like
again, yeah, I
primates?
gravitated
Primates,
towards
yeah.
primates,
And so like
primatology.
with my daughter, like all the projects she would be doing, she would always gravitate, instead of doing the technical stuff, she'd do a design thing. Like she would make a logo, or she would do
Mhm.
the writing portion for like a business plan or whatever the thing was. She would do that, and I kept telling her, I was like, Kate, or I would be like, hey, I don't think you like this, kid, and just drop the seed here and there. And then eventually she was like, I don't like this, mom. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah, it's so weird, this idea of equity, that we should be pushing people, that the government should be deciding and with force steering people into positions and careers based on their sex and race, and deciding based on sex and race, which they're not merit, they're not interest, they're not
Mhm.
choice. It's not what you're choosing to do. There's a couple of great comments in the chat also, which point out their hypocrisy on this. Hey, Amy, two sisters and some yarn. Give it up for one of our mods. She says, do you want to get in the trench and dig? Yes, they never, ever. Texas Sheep Lady says the same thing. No one says 50% of garbage collectors should be women. Yeah, they never, ever, ever push for 50% equity in garbage collecting or trench digging. They never push for that. They never say, oh, there's a glass ceiling in trench digging. Somehow there's systemic oppression against women that aren't allowing them to get out and collect garbage. We got to get
I
rid of it.
think
They
it was
never
The
say that.
Office. It may have been The Office. There was an episode of some show a long time ago where the women, no, it was Parks and Rec. they went and they did the garbage thing, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna be garbage men, and then they couldn't lift. There's like a refrigerator or something. They couldn't do it, and they were asking for help, and they're like, no, it's your job. And it was just like the funniest thing. They're like, but we have to do this, and they're like, yeah, so do it.
And they're like, it's a hate fact that I physically can't pick this up. Thank you to Savrix again. Thank you for your generous super chats today for 1999. He says he gives a quote from Aristotle: "No man is a slave if better off free." Meaning, if a group cannot contribute to society, then they are better off a slave to the state. During COVID, you can't run your business, but here's a stimulus check, Big Daddy Gov. Yes, they want to turn people into slaves to the state. This is their whole goal, is to get us where we're content to get a pittance from the government. We're not allowed to own private property. We're not allowed to keep the fruits of our labor. You know, you're taxed on your income. You're taxed when you buy things. You're taxed when you sell your things. Yep. You're taxed with, it's this continual cycle of you're taxed when you use your things. They want to tax you now on, Biden was trying to put in the infrastructure bill to tax you for every mile that you drive your private vehicle. Yes. Yes. So not just
thing I started running. Just run everywhere.
Right. So not just taxed on your private property when you buy it, and not just taxed on your income when you make it, and then the private property when you buy it with your income that's left over, but then taxed on the gas as well. And then taxed for every mile that you use it. They think they can reach into your pocketbook.
And then every year you have to register your vehicle, money to the government.
Yes.
Bastards.
Yeah, but it's a way of discouraging private vehicles.
Yeah.
It's like if they make it so that people can't afford to drive private cars, then they can get to this 2030 future they envision where none of us own anything and we're happy. This communist future that they have planned for us.
Hey, but you know what? None of us own anything anyways. Because
that's the Christian view. I know.
So take it. Like, I don't care. Like, I honestly, I'm this weird person that's like, yeah, whatever.
But here on this earthly plane, if you're not allowed to have private property, let me see if I can articulate this correctly. Private property is freedom. Without it, you have tyranny and oppression.
Yep.
Because without it, you are slaves to whoever is doing the handouts for you here on this earthly plane. You're still free in Christ. You still can't take any of the private property with you, but it makes life worse for people. It prevents human flourishing here on this earthly plane to be dependent on a government, to be dependent on men with guns, on elites, on people who are above you to give you handouts, to be living on their dime, on what they say you can live on. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does. So I just my brain just always goes back to, and that's why we don't put our faith or anything in anything other than God and Jesus. Because if you're looking for a handout, if you're looking for help, you go there. You say, hey, here's what I need. If it's your will, bless me. If not, I'll figure it out, and then it'll come later. And you work hard and you do for yourself, which is also his plan. I'm getting pretty deep in it. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but it is the truth. It's the truth.
Yes, it is the truth. It's also, that's why even if things take a much darker turn than they've already taken in the US, humans will survive it. Humans have come through all kinds of human evil on this earthly plane. You can survive anything with God, but I don't want to maximize the opportunity for oppression here on this earthly plane. I want to maximize human flourishing and God's beautiful creation and all the gifts that he's given us, all the rights that he's given us. That's what I want to see here for.
Yeah. But you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink is basically what I'm saying too. Like you can tell everybody this stuff, but you can't make them believe it. Right. Mm-hmm. So they're on their own, and that's fine. They'll learn eventually.
Can I tell you, Jen, I went to this protest. This is a year or two ago in Georgetown, Texas, on the little square there. It was when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. There was going to be this protest for women's rights, and so I went out there and I had a sign that said, something to the effect of, if you supported lockdowns and mass mandates, you're not pro-choice, you're just pro-abortion. Like, own it. And it made a lot of people angry. It's true though. If you support vaccine mandates and lockdowns and mass mandates, you're not pro-choice. Don't even pretend. You're just, I see what you are now. You're just pro-abortion. Okay. So this one socialist, self-admitted socialist, this guy who was out there protesting, he started talking to me. He was one of the only ones who would talk to me. And I'm just gonna tell you what he said. It was very eye-opening because his mind is all tumbled. And I started trying to figure out, like, what do we agree on? And so he was asking me what my sign meant. And we were talking about lockdowns, and I was pointing at the town square. I said, a lot of these small mom and pop businesses, they went out of business during the lockdowns because the government said you can't stay open, or you have to do all of these different restrictions if you're going to be open, or you can't operate at all. There were people all over the country who lost their small businesses, but the corporations were allowed to keep operating. And we saw this huge transfer of wealth from the middle class to the elite. And he agreed. He said, I don't think that the government should be able to force lockdown. So we found that bit of common ground. But then he said, but he liked the fact that during lockdowns, they gave us a stimulus check, and he thought that should continue, and that we should get a basic income from the government every month, that the government should give us money that they take from other people, they take from some and give to others. He thinks this is a good thing. I asked him why. He said, because we have to get out from under their thumb, the thumb of corporations and government. Okay. Does that make any sense? If you're trying to get out from someone's thumb, you want them to determine how much money you're going to get each month? Like, they're the ones who decide, and they're the ones who you're living at their will, at what they deign to give you, and that's going to somehow liberate you from them? Does that make sense to you?
No.
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. How old was that guy? Can I ask?
He was early 20s. And yeah.
So okay, back my adult daughter. So she was in speech and debate back in high school, and I sat in and judged a lot of the speech and debate things, and I always felt like they're doing this to the kids because eventually they're going to be out in the world and voting and pushing these things. So the speech and debate, I feel like they're super corrupt. It all comes down from the College Board, which comes down from the government and all that. So one of the years, one of the sessions was very focused on universal basic income. And it was 7-8 years ago now. And that's before the talk in general population started happening. About 2 years later, then those kids that were 15, 16 became of voting age. It's like, I feel like they set these things up, and then it becomes this talking point. Like, they're training the kids.
Yes.
The government, in the government schools and the government things, it's like this machine, right? Like, it's just pushing all this stuff out. And I'm sitting here listening. They didn't ask me to judge very often. I'll just say that because my comments back. They were always good, but it was like, you can't use race as an argument, I'm sorry, or whatever. Like, they would use that for everything.
Wow.
Some of the students.
Yeah. They are programming the kids. That's my experience in academia. They are. This young person, he also said, so he works in tech. Currently, he does something in IT. And he was saying, I asked him, so how do you define freedom? I was trying to get him to thinking about private property and everything. And he's a full-blown, he says he's a socialist, and he told me he's against private property rights. And I said, okay, so how do you define freedom? And he said, well, I don't want to work anymore. I don't think we should have to work. I think we produce enough that we shouldn't have to work. And freedom for me is not working. It's getting a check from the government every month. And it just blew my mind. It's slavery. That's slavery. They are giving you, they decide how much the check is. They decide who they're taking it from to give it to you. And you don't get to keep any private property. You don't get to, that's actually freedom, is to keep the fruits of your labor. You work for something, you get it, you own it, it's yours. You're not dependent on anyone else. You're not dependent on the government.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how upside down his thinking was.
So he is very upside down. And there's, Waylon Jennings has a great song. It's Low Down Freedom. I don't know if that's the name of it, but it's Low Down Freedom. You've cost me everything that I'll ever love is the lyric. And it is so true. Like the more you strive for freedom, what humans view as freedom, it puts you in a box and then it contains you. So what he's doing, he's like, I don't want to work. I want all this freedom. I want to do what I want. I want to do what I want. But someone has to pay for it. So now I'm beholden to that paycheck that the government's giving me. So now I'm stuck living on whatever this is. So all that freedom I think I'm going to have is gone. Like you can't do the things you want to do because you don't have the money because you don't work. Like get a job.
Right. And it's basically it's for the people that the government's taking from, you know, that's wrong to take from them to give to others, but it's also wrong of them to keep the others in this sort of slavery to the government, waiting for that, you know, that money, that pittance to come through each month. It's everything about this is anti-freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to our clips. I want to finish this.
Kamala.
I know Kamala in the mask talking about equity. So she's saying we have to equality is bad because it's just about treating people the same, and we need equity to ensure that people end up in the same place. I'm going to start it from the beginning. Let the whole thing play. It's just 26 seconds. Here we go.
Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place. Equality.
Did you notice there that she said some people need more?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you know that famous saying? From each according to his ability. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Wanted to make sure I got it right. Have you heard this phrase before, right?
No.
Oh, this is a famous phrase from Marx. This is a famous communist phrase. That's basically what she's saying. From each according to his ability. So you take from people according to their ability and what they can do and they can produce, and you give to others based on their need. And it's the government top down doing it. They're deciding who they take from and who they give to. From each according to his ability, to each according to their needs. She just said, some people need more. It's the government's job. Basically, that's what she's saying, right? It's the government's job to decide. I'm going to take from you.
That's why people need Jesus, because you don't need the government. You just need God. Switch the G words. Like
they make the government their God.
Yes, exactly.
Tatsu-sama, thank you. Oh my goodness. Gifted 10 memberships.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
So if you want to support, I don't say this enough. I should at the beginning, and I always just go right into the topic. If you want to support the channel, if you like the shows that I do, if you like the shows with Mystery Chris, Pop Culture, if you like the Christian panel, you can support us here at YouTube by becoming a member. And that's where you're basically paying, I think there's different tiers. I think it's $1 a month or maybe $2 a month. And you are a member of the channel. So you're supporting us in that way.
Oh, okay.
And
that's cool.
So you can also gift memberships, and you can pay for other people to be members for a month. And there's all these little membership fairies running around just gifting. And it's the coolest thing to see.
What happens if you get gifted? I'm sorry, this is not on topic, but I see that and I'm always like, what is that? So if you get gifted a membership, how do you know you're gifted it? Or how do you claim a gift? Or like, what is the deal?
Okay, there's some kind of magic that happens in the chat. I don't know how they claim it. I think YouTube just gives it to people, maybe. Like Kendra here. Kendra is a member because her name shows up in green. I can see. Maybe not there on StreamYard, but it does. Thank you, Tatsu-sama. Good show. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And then I saw Savrix earlier was asking, how do you become a member yourself? And there's a little button. Hopefully one of the mods can help you find it. There's a little button somewhere where you can become a member, and they have different tiers you can choose from. And if you don't want to support Deprogrammed through YouTube, I get that. Some people don't like, because YouTube takes a cut and YouTube's very censorious. You can also go to Subscribestar. You can support there. They're not very censorious. You can go to Locals and support there, or Patreon. So, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Okay. Let's get back to Kamala.
Okay.
I've got another one of her in the wheelchair.
Ooh, wait, what? Is she in the wheelchair?
She was in the wheelchair in that one clip. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe she was sick then. Okay, wait, no, this is a different one. Here. Let's hear what she has to say about equity here.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more.
Oh.
Equitable.
Oh, equity. Oh, communism. Oh, that's what you're talking about. I get it. From each according to their ability to each according to their needs. Here we go.
About a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution.
Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place.
So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place.
So you hear what they're saying? They're saying equality is not good enough. Equality is not good enough. Some people need more than equality. They need equity.
Right?
Yeah. And when do they?
We are proud.
When do they pony up for that more? Like, when is she gonna be like, I know y'all need more. Here's some of my money, or whoever has the money. Like, they don't.
Oh, let me show you something about Kamala Harris. You probably missed this too, since so she's all over YouTube right now asking for donations. And in fact, even on my videos, on everybody's videos, it's I think it's based on the algorithm of the gender of people who watch your show and the age. And so younger people, they're getting Kamala Harris ads even on my channel. And this is one of her, I've seen this ad probably 100 times now, where she's asking for you to donate to her. And some eagle-eyed person noticed that in her donation request advertisement, she's wearing a gold Tiffany necklace that costs $62,000. That necklace right there. Do you see that?
Yeah. See, like, okay, I don't have a problem with her wearing that. And I don't care what people have money for and what they spend it on. And good for her.
Right.
It seems like it's probably beautiful. I do not like gold myself, but that's just a preference. But if you're gonna have that stance,
yes,
if you're gonna have that, it's a double standard. I personally despise double standards. Yes. It goes against, it makes me sick, and I'm like, oh, my gut hurts.
Yes.
I don't like it.
I don't like hypocrisy. That's the thing. If she were not arguing that we should take some people's rights away, that we should discriminate against some people on the basis of race and sex, that we should redistribute resources to people with government force. If she weren't saying that, this wouldn't bother me. I would say, oh, she's earned that $62,000 necklace. If that's the dumb way she chooses to spend her money, fine, who cares? But what I look at this now, yes, you heard right in the chat. Somebody said $62,000. Yes, I didn't get the comma wrong. $62,000. That's how much that necklace cost. Yeah. And she's in the ad saying, "Give me $5," while she's wearing this $62,000 necklace.
Has anybody checked her suit and her earrings and whatever else she's wearing? She's probably walking around wearing $500,000 worth of stuff.
Right. And it's like, come on, lady, from each according to their ability, right? You had the ability to get that necklace. I think I might need that necklace. I think I might need it and need to seize it. The means of necklace having.
I mean, at the very least, and if her campaign ever hears this, they should do it. They should take like a piece of jewelry or something, and then and get the money for it, and then just go somewhere and give it to some poor people, or do something in public. Because then that would show, like, I stand behind, my money is where my mouth is, type of thing. Like, I stand behind what I say. And maybe people might respect her a little.
Yeah, I don't. This lady doesn't say anything that she means. She just says whatever is expedient in the situation. Yes, she is. Okay, I do have oh no, it says I lost audio. Let me see. Can you hear this?
Oh, Kamala's out to get you.
Can you hear that?
Too many. No, I can't hear anything.
Okay, this sucks. Okay, let me refresh this and see. Hold on 1 second. This has been happening lately, and on StreamYard, and I'm not sure. Why? Okay, tell me, Jen, if you can hear this.
No, but we should do a voiceover and just make her say things.
No, this is bad though, because all of my links, a lot of them are video. We were going to
Oh
watch
no.
video clips of her. Man, this sucks. Okay. Let me try and fix this, guys. Sorry. I'm going to leave for a
okay.
second. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll just
Wait.
sit here and talk to everybody.
Okay.
So what are you guys up to? I can't see the chat, so I hope you're having a good day. This is my sewing studio behind me. I'm going with a different theme. If you've seen any other videos, they've been kind of metal and harder. This is more wood and natural. I'm kind of doing the hippie vibe now. I like nature a lot, and I think everybody should go out and God's creation, touch grass. For real, for real. Are you back, Keri?
I'm back.
I'm not holding the show very well.
Oh, you're fine. Just hanging out with people is
Yeah.
great. Today's like it's a Friday. It's a good hanging out with people day. Okay, here we go. Let's see if you can hear any of these.
So there's a big difference between equality and equity.
You hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. We watched that one though.
Right. Okay, good. Here we go. Let's watch this. Here we go. I'm going to fast forward to the place we're at. Thank you guys for being patient.
We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles. Proud of the fact that we understand equality is important, but not everybody starts out on the same base. We see that people in our country are having an experience that is not equal. So when we talk about the work we are doing here together, it is recognizing that and being guided by this principle of what we must do in the spirit and in the interest of equity. To put equity firmly at the center of our economic policy. But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners.
This is the cornerstone of DEI. It is equity. It's this idea of taking from some forcibly by the government and redistributing it. This is
help anybody. It
no.
just doesn't help anybody. And it removes the individuality because you don't, like I said before, you don't have those trials to work through and build your own character. They just want everybody to be like one thing. Which, going back to the COVID thing, when all those mom and pop shops closed down, that's the individuality of our shopping experience. Like you have so many options. Now you have like two, Walmart, Costco, whatever, Target, and Amazon. But like they keep narrowing it down to like you have this or that, and then pretty soon it's just this. But that's not, we're unique. We all have preferences. We should have that individuality. So this equity thing is going to remove anything that creates the individuality inside you, the individual, because then we all want to be at the same place.
Well, there's no reason to try and be the best at anything, to try for merit. If you don't have a merit-based system, which is at the end of the day what the woke left is doing, the Marxist left, the communist left, it's all the same thing. The Democrats are currently they're not liberals anymore. That's why I left. They're thoroughly taken over by this communist ideology. At the end of the day, they are trying to destroy the merit-based society. They don't believe that hard work should pay off or that you should get things based on your talent or your intelligence or your work. They don't believe in merit-based. They believe in race-based, sex-based. It's identity-based. But just for now, they're just using identity as a vehicle, you see? Like they'll use whatever they need to destroy society. Right now they're using identity. They used to use class in the Marxism of old, but they'll use whatever it takes to tear society apart.
And they just keep shifting, which is why you're seeing the frustration come out in them too, because all of these things have been seen now, and everybody, like a lot of people are catching on, and it's not working, and that frustration is building, so they have to like jump the shark. Where's the next thing?
Yeah. Oh,
We're
climate's
gonna
going to
shoot
be one of the
Trump.
next
Like
things.
what?
Yeah. But
I know
climate
that
will be
happened. I
another.
do know that happened.
I'm glad you weren't under a rock for everything entirely. I'm going to show you another clip. Now, this is Kamala herself. She benefits from equity. She has benefited from being a woman and from being a person of color. And this is openly acknowledged. This was openly acknowledged and praised and celebrated by the left just 4 short years ago. And now they want to memory hold this and pretend like it didn't happen. But Biden chose her not because she was the best candidate, not because of her policies and her ideas, not because of merit. It told us
wasn't her public speaking. I'll just say,
it's
just
not her
listening
public
to those
speaking.
clips, like terrible.
He told us he was going to choose a woman of color, and then he did. And then after he chose her, he told us she was a DEI hire, that he picked her because of her identity groups. And here's him saying this. Let's listen to him. This is a very short clip.
Diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country and starts at the top with the vice president. Diversity, equality.
Starts at the top with the vice president. There, you heard it there. He picked her because she is DEI. He picked her because of her race and her sex. And here, let me just back it up with this, and then we can talk about this. This one's also short. This is Joy Reid 4 short years ago versus Joy Reid today. Let's listen to the difference.
Are you committed to naming a Black woman as your vice presidential running mate? What makes this so ugly is that it reveals a truth that is clearly broadly held within Republican circles. That white men, by definition, when they have a job, earned it and deserve it. And anybody but a white man is a DEI hire. Are you committed to naming a Black woman as your vice presidential?
They did this 4 years ago. They demanded you have to pick a Black woman because she's a Black woman. You have to pick her based on sex and race. You have to do this. And now 4 years later that people are calling her correctly a DEI hire, now they're saying, hey, that's racist to point that out. She wasn't hired because of her race and sex. You said she was, and you told him to do it.
Yeah, they create the problem, they create the situation. Then when you react to the situation, then they say you're the one at fault.
Yes.
As a trauma bond.
It's a total trauma bond.
It's an abusive relationship. That's what I'm saying. Like, it all goes back to the baseline for an abusive relationship. And people have that cult mentality, that abusive relationship with both parties. I'm not even just going to say it's the Democrats, because the Republicans are just as bad. They're just maybe less at this point. I don't know.
They're less thoroughly Marxist, but they can be just as bad in some ways. This to me just blows my mind, because here's a good question to ask people on the left at this moment in time when you see them deflecting and saying, no, she's not a DEI hire. No, there are no DEI hires. I would just ask them, if DEI is such a good thing and you're always saying we should do it and we should use it to hire people and to select people for college, we should use DEI, right? If it's such a good thing, then why do you think it's a bad thing to point out when it happens? Like, if it's a good thing, then why do you run away from it when people say, oh, this person was hired through your good DEI policy?
Yeah, you don't like merit. If you don't like merit, then what? Or show me why. Show me why. If it's not because she's Black, then why did she get picked? Has anybody just asked that?
Yeah,
probably. I'm sure they have.
They say it's racist to ask that. You can't ask that. It's racist.
Oh,
but you said you guys picked her. Yeah, you picked her with racism. Randy Wellen for 99. Thank you, Randy. Says the DNC just announced that in its ongoing virtual roll call, Harris just secured the nomination. That's funny. Oh. She secured it after they already selected her without the voice of the people. They put her on the ticket without an election. Now they're saying, oh, good. Well, we just, it's no worries, guys, because we had the vote after we picked her and it's fine. So Harris just secured the nomination. Pretty good for a woman who didn't receive a single primary vote. Equity. Yep.
Yeah. Because who knows where she started? I mean, I've heard things,
Oh,
but
yes.
you know, I am a good Christian woman and won't say it out loud. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I know. We know where she started, so we don't need to get into that. But I know I've only got you for maybe a few minutes more, and I
Okay.
had so many things queued up, and that's fine. I feel like I'm going to be talking about Kamala for a lot in the coming weeks. I apologize, people. There's so many things we could show. Let me just show you something that she wants to spend your tax dollars on federally. She's supported this in individual states, and she wants to do this on the national stage. This is a post from Tiffany Justice from Moms for Liberty, which is a great organization. I highly recommend them. I have an interview here with Tiffany on my channel if you want to check it out, and all the good work that they're doing across the country. So Tiffany Justice says, she has some great commentary here. She says, Kamala wants to pay for sex changes for male prisoners and house them in female prisons. My grocery bill is twice what it was 4 years ago. I don't know about you, but I'm not really interested in paying for plastic surgery for mentally ill men. And I would go a step further. It's not just that she's asking us to pay for plastic surgery for mentally ill men. She's asking us to pay for plastic surgery for mentally ill murderers and rapists. These people have already been segregated from society because they can't live amongst civil society because they killed someone or raped someone. And now they also want to take money from our pocketbooks and pay for these men to have sexual reassignment surgery. We're going to pay for the murderers and rapists. This is happening in some states. This is
But what
happening.
if, Keri,
Yeah.
what if they become a woman and then they are softer hearted and more feminine and then they are rehabilitated? So maybe she's onto something. And then they can go back out in the world.
Right.
I'm sure caring and loving.
I'm sure that'll work. I'm sure that's never. Do you know, Jen, there are already cases where I've seen people say, well, if these men start raping women in the female prisons that they're getting put into, then that'll certainly stop it. That hasn't stopped it. They are raping women. There's been numerous cases now in the news of them raping women in the female jails.
Yeah, I have heard that.
We're still doing it.
Good. Yeah.
We're still putting them in there. And
Yeah, I think
women.
I think the military pays for gender reassignment and all
Yeah.
that too. I don't know.
Taking
the
your
government
money.
shouldn't be paying.
Why should society, why should the taxpayer, pay for sexual reassignment for people who've already been adjudicated as not being fit to live in society?
It kind of pisses me off. I'm going to get a little mad now because there's a lot of veterans that have like severe PTSD and other mental actual things that they don't get treated for. And they get pushed around and pushed around. I meet people all the time. I work in multiple jobs all the time. So I'm just always meeting people. And I like recently, for some reason, I keep meeting a lot of these vets and they tell me the same story. And it's just very frustrating to hear it. Yeah. And then to hear that they're going to be like, well, you want to change your sex gender, we'll do that immediately. But we're not going to help these people over here.
Yeah. Where are our priorities?
Yeah.
So listen to her talk about this.
When I was Attorney General, I learned that the California Department of Corrections, which was a client of mine, I didn't get to choose my clients.
Right. A client of the Attorney General.
A client of the Attorney General, right. Of the Office of Attorney General, that they were standing in the way of surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. And there was a specific case. And when I learned about the case, I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving.
Wow.
So it wasn't only about that case. I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California.
Wow. Yeah,
so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care.
Can they get
that they
like
desired
breast
and need.
implants then? Like, why do the men get to
No,
look better than the women?
They don't say that's medically necessary. They say that they lie and say this is medically necessary, and therefore the taxpayer has to pay for murderers and rapists who have. Yeah, it's equity. It's taking from you.
Started out in life with bigger boobs than I have.
I see.
I feel like this man comes along and all of a sudden has giant tits.
Well,
Like,
Jen,
how come I can't have that?
if you murder someone and get put in prison for
Oh.
life, you can make the argument then, and maybe
Okay, I'll
Kamala,
start a list.
yeah, will
People
say,
to
hey,
murder.
just like these men in prison, we're going to make the taxpayer pay for it.
Oh my gosh.
And I believe so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need. And I believe it was not only, I know it was historic in California, but I believe actually it may have been one of the first, if not the first in the country, where I pushed for that policy in a Department of Corrections. When I was Attorney General.
It is the Department of Corrections. They're correcting genders.
She's so proud of it, Jen.
Yeah,
She's
because
so proud of it.
she really thinks she's doing well, which that's why you got to think about where these people came from and their mental state too. And there's almost like a gut like compassion for them because they don't know that they're doing wrong. They do, but they don't. I feel like a lot of them are blinded by that I'm doing good over and over, that mantra inside them that like they don't know, you know.
So we may disagree on this slightly.
Okay.
I think a lot of them think they're doing good. Absolutely. The little foot soldiers in it, like I was, they think it's good. They think this is a movement to end bigotry and oppression. The ones who are the leaders and the architects of it, I think a lot of them, like Kamala Harris, she doesn't, I mean, my true opinion, she either knows she's doing evil and doesn't care, or she's a full-blown sociopath who just there's no empathy there. She doesn't care. She'll say anything.
Does she have kids or cats?
She has cats. No, she has stepkids. She has some stepkids.
Okay.
Yeah. But she doesn't have, no, she never gave birth and raised her own family. She got married.
That's okay.
Yeah, she has stepkids. But he did mention her in that quote. If you go back and watch the JD Vance episode, he did mention her as an example of someone who's a childless cat lady. That's why they're so upset, I think.
Oh no.
I lost my train of thought there for a second. Oh, it's just that the ones at the top, no. I think some of them are thoroughly evil and they know what they're doing. And they're like the abusers, the narcissists, the sociopaths, the cluster B people who try and say that there's no such thing as good and evil so that they can do evil, and who will say anything, who use words as tools to manipulate and control. They don't use words as tools to communicate. They use them as words as tools for oppression. And that's what she is.
Yeah.
That's my take on her. G-Man for $2, thank you, says Willie Brown approves of this nomination. Do you know who he is?
No.
No worries.
No, tell me. What side story? What's Willie
Okay,
Brown?
so earlier you mentioned how she got her start. He's one of the guys that she,
got it.
That was they were very generous to each other. Spectral Citizen.
Then. That's good.
Spectral Citizen became a YouTube member here at Deprogrammed. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And Eric Heffelfinger for $20 says, in propaganda, there is flooding the zone, overwhelmed with information. Yes, impossible to have a discussion because the truth is hidden easier, distract from what is happening, fights about who is telling the truth, not what the truth is. I could not agree more. This is throughout history, this is the reason for the lies. They tell lie after lie after lie to destabilize the population, so we don't know what's true, and nobody knows who to trust.
And they deflect.
Yeah.
So you pull out, hey, double standard, I'm going to call you on this thing. And it's simple, very simple thing. You did a thing, whatever, call you out. All of a sudden you're going to get flooded with all kinds of things that are deflecting and pulling you in all these other different directions to confuse you and destabilize you.
Yes.
And then you forget about the original thing.
Yes. Yeah, look at what's happening.
You're chasing all these things.
Look at what's happening. Did you see the controversy about the Olympics and the boxing match that I mentioned at the beginning?
I didn't look into it. I saw somebody post Mike Tyson saying that he would box the guy or something like that. And I reposted it because I thought it was funny.
As Teresa Tyson?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he said that. Teresa Tyson?
It was just a meme.
I like Mike Tyson. He's funny.
I don't think he actually said anything. Maybe he did. I thought it was just a meme of him. as if he was going to get into the fight with a wig
Yeah,
on.
I do fall for that stuff because I don't follow a lot of news. So it'll like my Facebook is probably like fake news all over because I just think something's funny and I'll just post it.
Here, let me show you this guy. So this is what everyone's talking about, and this relates to equity. It does to identity equity. Here we go to identity Marxism. So in the Olympics, this guy, he just won in a match against a female boxer in the women's category. After 46 seconds, she tapped out. He punched her in the face, and she fell down to her knees crying and said, "This is unjust." Because she thought he had broken her nose and she couldn't continue. Now, the thing about him is and I will say I know there are people right now, everyone's arguing about what somebody just said, who is telling the truth. Here are the facts as I've seen them reported in the media. The things that we do know is that he was disqualified last year from the Women's World Championships. He was not allowed to compete. He was banned because he has XY chromosomes, which are male chromosomes, and he failed the testosterone test. He has the levels of testosterone for a man, so he is disqualified from competing against women. Was not allowed to compete. He was allowed to compete in the Olympics because it's a different governing body who makes the decision, and they are less stringent and they have fewer restrictions. And because apparently his passport says female, and he's been treated as a female since birth, they consider him a woman, despite what we do know factually. He failed the testosterone test. He has higher testosterone than women, and he has XY chromosomes. Despite all that, but it says female right here on the birth certificate. That's what we know. Now, there's all kinds of things people are arguing over truth now. Does he have a sex disorder? Does he fall into the very, very minute number of people who get called intersex, who have a developmental sex disorder? Is he one of those people? Everyone's arguing maybe he has Swyer syndrome, maybe he has this syndrome, who knows? And they're speculating all these things about his genitalia, and they don't know any of that. From what I've seen, he's never claimed to be intersex. He's never claimed to be trans. He's just claimed to be a woman. So everyone's arguing over what is truth.
But okay, so all of that aside, don't we have weight classes and size classes and things like that? Because I'm pretty sure it's probably bigger, much bigger than the woman.
He is bigger than her. He has.
There you go. That picture says everything right there. And honestly, because I don't know, and you don't know what's downstairs in his pants or her pants or whatever, that is not right, because you wouldn't have that in a weight class situation. You're not going to put like a heavyweight against a featherweight. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to put them. That's why there's weight classes. So this is not okay. Just on that basis alone.
I like what our friend, do you know Josh Slocum from Disaffected?
Yeah, well, I know him. We've done one of your other shows together.
Oh, okay.
Christmas episode years ago. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. The
Yeah,
Christmas
that was
episode. So he's had a lot of great commentary on this recently, and just about the lies. Yeah, and about the lies that people are telling, and the gaslighting that's happening around this issue of what is truth. And if you'll bear with me, I know we were talking about Kamala, but let me just show you one of the things he said, because I think this is spot on. Well, first of all, let me show you what Heather Haying, who is a biologist, had to say. You know, even if this guy does have a developmental sex disorder, he should not be, she says, people with disorders of sexual development should not be allowed to compete in the women's category. Under the banner of tolerance and equality of opportunity, that's equity, right? The banner of equity. We now have inequality of outcome for half the population. And I think that's important to point out, because I see this all over social media right now with people saying, oh, it's so cruel. Think about him. He should be allowed to compete. Why are you going to be so cruel? What about the women? What about all the women who are not just risking, like I said at the beginning, him crushing their Olympic dreams, but think about him crushing their skulls. Do you not care about like the physical implications of having this man with XY chromosomes who has higher testosterone than women, greater muscle mass, higher stature, greater bone density. None of that matters to you. Reality doesn't matter to you. What about all those women?
Yeah, and then the equity question, because that person started out in a different, started out up here, and then the women. So how do you bring them equal? Then are you going to say, okay, so in order to Olympically box against this one, I'm trying to be respectful because I don't know this person's real situation. I don't want to be like he or she because I don't know.
Right.
So
You
I'm
could
trying
say
to this
they.
person, they, them.
It's
anyway,
a they
so
them.
are they going to say, okay, women, if you want to do this, we will give you all this testosterone to take, and we will offer you extra training and growth hormones and stuff, and then you'll be at the same level, and then you can box this guy, this person. Like that's weird.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
No, but why would they anyways? And then why would the women be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to change everything? Like nobody's going to do that. That's the equity position.
Now, here's how they look at it from equity position. They say this man, when they look at, for example, trans women, men who say they have gender dysphoria and that they are trans and that they know they are women on the inside and they're women and they're just fixing their outside to match and all that. They say that trans people are one of the oppressed groups in this identity Marxism. Trans people are one of the oppressed groups. They've come up with a new fake name for people who are not trans, normal people. They call us cis. Cis people are the oppressors. So they say the trans people are oppressed by the cis, and they're not starting out in the same place, in the equal place. And in order to make things equal, to borrow from Kamala, we have to give these people what they need. They need more than we do. The trans people need more. They need to be treated as women, even though they're not. We need to treat them as women. And no matter the sacrifice, no matter what you're taking from all of these actual women who've worked their whole life to get here, who are losing scholarship opportunities, who are losing gold medals, who are losing anything that they could have gained through merit, and who are risking their safety being in a boxing ring with this man. Who cares what you're taking from them, right? Because you're giving this one person what he needs. That's how they view it.
Yeah. So how come they don't put him in the category with the men, even though he says he's a woman?
Because he says he's a woman. That's all they need in this new society.
But equal footing.
He's a woman.
But equal footing, he's more equally footed. Equity, he's more equally footed to be matched against men.
Because they don't look at Laurel Hubbard. Do you know who Laurel Hubbard is?
Nope.
Laurel Hubbard is a man who competed in the Olympics in the powerlifting, broke records. Now, Laurel Hubbard, before he decided he was a woman, competed as a man, and he was mediocre, and he won nothing. Mm-hmm. And then he transitioned, physically looked entirely the same, by the way, didn't even physically do anything, just said, I'm a woman. Boom, Olympics, winning medals. And all that mattered is this subjective, not reality, but just subjective feeling of, well, I identify as, and I am. And therefore the Olympics, not wishing to offend, hey, look, we have to believe all trans women. He's a woman. Let's put him in with the women.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
There's a whole list of these mediocre male athletes now who are identifying as women.
They can't feel good though. That cannot feel good. Like you can't be like at the end of the day, be like, yes, I did the best I could and I accomplished tremendously today or whatever. Like
no,
you're like, I beat women. Like, do you feel like, okay, this is a little bit different. Well, maybe not. So the trans in their head, I know. Okay, so they feel like they're a woman. Do you think that they know that they're a man though? Like they were born a man?
Of course. Yes.
Like they have, or are they that
yes.
like dissociated?
Yes. So here's my friends who are trans, who have gender dysphoria, who are based in reality. They will tell you outright. Like one of my first interviews I did on this channel around the time I talked with you in the Knitters was with my friend Sarah Higdon, who will say to you and said in the video, of course I am a biological man. Okay. Otherwise, what am I transitioning to? I'm a biological man who has gender dysphoria, and I am attempting to live as a woman to deal with that dysphoria of feeling like I am in the wrong body.
Perfect.
That's
So-
a base. Wait, let me just 1 second.
Okay, go ahead.
That's a base trans person. The trans people like Laurel Hubbard who are competing as women are not based in reality. They go out into the world and they pretend that they are actually women now, that they have actually magically become a woman, that they are now a woman by virtue of willing it. They pretend, and they pretend that it is fair to compete with women, knowing, but deep down, they know exactly what Sarah does, that they are biological men. They're just lying.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Yeah, no, that's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at, because I had this gut feeling that they have to know. Like, how do you not know? Like, you have to know if you're a boy or a girl. And then, I guess there is that gender dysphoria where it does affect a very small population of people, but it is, there. It's been documented like for a long time, but they still know. They still know. And that's what the dysphoria comes from, because they know what they are and what they feel like they should be.
Right.
And that's the problem.
And the ones who are doing this in sports, I would go even further to say, I don't even think that most of them or any of them maybe have gender dysphoria. I don't think they even have that. A lot of them are narcissists and predators who are taking advantage of a situation and are saying, well, if I can't win as a man, then I'm going to become a woman. Like, seriously, they're just, or they have autogynephilia, where they have some sexual kink and fetish that develops in adulthood, not when you're children, but in adulthood, very different from gender dysphoria, where they get off on seeing themselves as the opposite sex. And they're trying to conflate that with gender dysphoria. And a lot of the trans people have gender dysphoria are like, you are not like us. Go away, fetishist. Like, that's
which one of these things is not like the other?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a little
good.
far afield here. I want to show you one thing that Slocum said, Disaffected said about the boxer. So this is from Disaffected Pod at X. You can follow him there. He says, it doesn't matter what I think about Amain K, the Algerian boxer who clobbered a woman. It doesn't matter what you think. Here's what matters. We are being gaslit, lied to at a psychopathic scale, and it's scaring the hell out of me, and it should scare the bejesus out of you. Whether he's a man in every way, a man with a disorder of sexual development, or even a woman, so unlikely as to be comical, look at what's being done to us. We can all see that to the naked eye, Amain looks just like any man, a young, strong man. Please stay with me, even if you're angry. He has a male brow ridge, male cheekbones, male deep-set eyes, a man's jaw. He has a man's skeleton. The male shoulders are obvious. The straight male hips are obvious. The lack of breasts is obvious. All of you can see this, even those of you who disagree and believe he's a woman. You at least know privately to yourself that it's reasonable to look at this person and say, man, because you know that you did that yourself. Because we're humans, we have senses, and sex detection is normal. You see what I see, though you be woke and I be not, for example. If we can agree on that, then notice what we're being told by the media, the Olympics, and almost everyone. You're crazy. You don't see what you think you see. Women look like this. The problem is you personally. There's something weird about you that sets you apart from others, and it's something that makes you immoral and suspect. Stop saying what you see. You don't see it. Are you sure you took your medicine this morning? He says, that's what the, quote, respectable media and institutions are doing to us. My brother and sister and I grew up in a household that was run this way. This is exactly the kind of psychological distortion and abuse that our mother used to break us. It was a horror of a childhood, and it left us all damaged and scarred. This is the behavior that comes from cluster B personality disorders, excess narcissism, Machiavellianism, sadism. These are severe, dangerous mental pathologies. Cluster B is what animates the domestic abuser, the child abuser, the rapist. Psychopaths are cluster B. I sound so strident because I know what is happening. I can see it. I've lived the consequences of how dangerous it is, and I know I'm right. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but I can't help it. I do know what I know, and millions of others who grew up like me know it too. Please notice how you're being psychologically abused and manipulated. Please remember your self-respect and develop that righteous anger that is appropriate when someone abuses you this way. Don't accept it, no matter where you are politically. Even if you think Emaine is a woman, you do know, even if you won't say it out loud, that no one is crazy for looking at Emaine and seeing a man. But our betters are willing to go this far to act psychopathically to convince us that we're the insane and unstoppable ones. It's almost over. This is the war that personality disordered parents wage on their children. It is the war that cutthroat CEOs wage on their underlings. It's the war that most virulent cluster Bs in political history have waged against their own people at the cost of hundreds of millions of lives. We have to protect ourselves. We have to reverse this. Our lives might depend on it.
Yeah, he outlines the abusive relationships, the abuser and the abused. That's the same way cults are run. It's the same way households in abusive households are run. It's the same across the board. It's not a unique tactic. Gaslighting is for real. It's not this fake weird thing that they just want to be like, oh, you're gaslighting me. No, I'm sorry. I'm not, but there are things that are. And when you not dispel truth, but when you ignore truth and replace it with an unreality and call that truth, that's gaslighting.
That's gaslighting. You tell people they can't trust reality. They don't know what reality is. They're dependent on you.
You ask them the questions to make them second guess themselves. And that's the psychological trauma. That's what brings us all to the confused state. And that's what they hold on to. If you're confused, they can guide you and push you and make you do whatever they want. Yeah. The first thing that happened after Adam and Eve, and that snake came along, he gaslit Adam. Or he
totally. Eve, yeah.
Did God say,
really say
question your reality, Eve? No, God said it. He legit said it. But did he? He said you're going to die. You think you're going to die? I don't know. You're going to die. No, she eats his apple. And then she didn't die because she didn't get the whole grasp of the whole sin thing because it wasn't real. It didn't happen yet. She didn't die. So she goes, hey, Adam, we're not going to die. Eat this apple. And then there you go. So the first lie, anytime you see a lie, you see a snake.
Yeah. You see a snake.
That's it.
Hey, All Things Theology's here. Hey, Chris. Good to see you. K-Dub. He came in right when you were telling the Garden of Eden story. What's up?
It's the truth.
It is. It's that gaslighting from the very beginning.
They hate truth tellers. Holy macaroni. An abusive anything. An abusive cult, an abusive person. They absolutely despise anybody that stands for truth.
Oh, they hate the truth.
Oh, because they know they can't pull one over on you. They can't play the game on you. They can't do it. And you're going to expose them. And that's the worst thing that could happen to them. That everything he wrote in that is absolutely correct. Down to all of it. Everything.
Speaking of which, since you mentioned truth, I'm on the same wavelength with you recently. I wrote an article. I don't write them often. If you want to sign up for my Substack, I don't send you one like every week or anything. When it hits me and I feel like I have to get this out, I go and write. And so it's like every other month or every month. But I wrote an essay yesterday called Being Hated in Choosing Truth Over Fear. And all of my Substack articles are free. You can subscribe if you want to. But currently they're all free. You can go and read it there. But it's just about like how to get over that fear. If you're in the audience, this essay it's not for people who are in my woke cult, my old woke cult. It's one that's for people who've already left it, but find themselves hamstringed by the fear of what will happen if they speak the truth. And it's about how you have to get through that fear. You have to get to the other side of it. It's so freeing to get to the other side of it. And that truth must be spoken, especially in chaotic, crazy times.
Yeah.
So go and check that out. What is that?
There
Keri
is
Smith.
absolutely nothing more freeing than just 100% truth. And I know that's hard. And then everybody has their slip ups and you're going to do the white lie thing or whatever. But if for the most part in your day, in your life, if all you do is strive and try to just live in truth and be truthful and be honest and have, no, I don't want tacos today. Whatever. Don't try to appease anybody.
Don't tell a lie. Yes.
Yeah. You just constantly be truthful.
Yes.
That is so freeing, because then what? You get, somebody gets mad at you or whatever. Well, you're mad at truthful things. Okay.
Yes.
Like
It
you're
doesn't
not trying
matter.
to hide. You don't have to come back and defend yourself. You don't have to defend the truth.
No.
And that's what they want us to keep doing, is to defend and be on the defensive over and over and over. And that's, again, a traumatic response, is to defend and explain.
Yes.
Defending and explaining is 100% comes from trauma. So yeah, don't be traumatized. Don't let them traumatize you.
The next country says, I have your truth over fear article bookmarked so far. I'm an inch away from being fully public on my ex-leftism, but I live in Portland, LOL. Hey, let me tell you something. This is who you are exactly who I wrote this essay for yesterday. Because the thing is, you don't, first of all, in whatever way you decide to put yourself out there, it doesn't have to be to the same degree for every person. Don't think like, oh, if I believe these things and I want to speak truth, I have to do, this in this method or on this platform or in this way. That's not true. Everyone chooses. It's just in every choice that you make to be respectful of and to be loyal to the truth in those choices. And so for some people, it is running for office. They feel like I have to put myself out there in that way and speak truth in that way. I have to run for school board. I have to do that. For other people, it's doing a podcast or sharing what you think on Facebook, sharing articles you believe are true and things you agree with on Facebook, sharing your thoughts on social media. But for other people, it could just even start with, especially if you're in Portland and everyone around you is woke, it could just even start with having that courage to say the truthful but loving thing in a conversation where somebody's saying something that's really evil or that you really disagree with. Just saying, I'm gonna take that plunge and I'm gonna try and say, but don't you think this? I'm gonna challenge just a little bit. That's a big step, and those little steps, like, they will cure you of that fear, because what will happen over time is, I experienced this. Over time, you will become stronger, more resilient. You will care less what people think anyway, because you've been through it so many times now. And you'll get to this place of what I can only describe as this resilience, this piece of being, no matter what happens and what they think of me, and if they think the wrong thing about me, if they think I'm a crazy bigot or whatever, that's wrong. It doesn't matter, because I know what the truth is. And you'll get to that contentment where what they think doesn't matter so much. So sorry that was long, but
no. And to that point, if you have a fear of saying something for the fear of somebody not friending you or dropping you as a friend or getting mad at you for what you believe to be the truth, then that's an unhealthy relationship, and you are walking on eggshells, and you are silencing yourself to appease them.
yes,
And that's not healthy. That is not healthy.
It's not healthy, and you're demoralizing yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they hold the power over you, and that's a power dynamic.
The next country, I wish so many good things for you.
Yes.
I will
Speak
pray
your
for
mind.
you. Speak
And
your
it's
mind.
okay. It's okay to be isolated. If your friends all drop off, isolation is good in certain ways, not to self-isolate or to be isolated by somebody else holding power over you. But sometimes we need isolation. You get that time to yourself, you figure out who you are, and you build on yourself. And then you go back out in the world and you say, hey, here I am. I'm going to stand here. You can be my friend or not. It's cool. Yeah. And you're okay with being alone. And that's because you're never alone. Again,
you're never, and you will also find people who are like-minded. Like, we found each other. Let me show you this. Look at this. Two sisters in some yard at the beginning said, I'm still amused that all of this cancellation got all of us knitters and crafters together. And to Keri. Yes. I made so many friends after I left woke. And the thing is, all the friends, I did lose a lot of friends. I put that in quotes because now I think of them more as allies anyway. They weren't deep connections based on something strong like my friendships now. They were,
because there was fear behind it.
Yes.
Keri. And you can't have true intimacy if there's fear in the room. If there's fear there, you can't, and not sexual intimacy. Well, that's a thing too. But I mean, just intimacy as a friend and in sharing and being open. You don't get those friendships. You don't get to that level if you're scared to say anything or be anything.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, look in the chat. Rasmix1 says there have been a few meetups in Portland area of like-minded people, and they've been some of the best events I've gone to in a decade or more. You guys need to connect in Portland, okay?
Yeah.
You need to
Portland
connect in the
meetup.
comments. Do a Portland meetup.
Also, I got asked to do one of the from the beginning. If you're still here from the very beginning, when I was talking about the social club, I did a live the other day talking about it, and someone was like, "Hey, can you come to Portland?" So maybe I'll be out there in Portland at some time next year. We're gonna do some hiking though. I don't because the thing is sewing or crafting and, so it's like we're gonna do the thing and also go hiking and also go something else.
I love. Okay, you're inspiring me now. I'm going to be traveling a little bit for my husband's music in a couple months, and I'm going to try and plan an actual official meetup in some of these places. You're getting me excited.
Let me know where they are, because I want to plug Frontier Airlines. I'm their official spokesperson.
Why?
They have a flight pass that you can get, and it's super inexpensive for the entire year. So it's $5.99 for the entire year, and you can fly as much as you want. And like I went to DC and back, it was like $24. Like you pay the taxes on the flights. So you tell me where you're going to be, and I'll just show up there, because it helps if you're a traveling person. I very much suggest getting this flight path thing.
Okay, well, I know we're going to be in Colorado, Wyoming.
That's where their hub is. There's flights all day, every day from Vegas to Colorado.
Okay, so if you are in Colorado and Wyoming, just bookmark it. I'll let you know when, but I am going to plan a meetup in some of these places. And hit me up in the comments here at YouTube or on Facebook or X, and remind me, like, where are you going to do meetups? I am going to do meetups while I'm on the road. Okay, we've got to go. I'm going to wrap this up. You mentioned the sewing club, so tell people one more time.
Yeah, so
about this event.
On Facebook, go to Social Club Events, and it'll pull up all the things we have going on. I just started this like 3 weeks ago, and I'm doing meetups and sewing retreats. There's one in Philadelphia. There's one in Austin planned, and there's one coming up in San Diego as well. This one specifically is Nashville at the end of this month. It's a 3-day event, and we still have room for a couple more instructors. It's free or by donation, and it's a blast. And the classes are also free. And come out and hang out with us.
You guys can get the link in the chat. I'm also going to edit the video description. I'll put it below. This is for Nashville, August 29th through September 1st.
So the 29th, I put the date kind of weird because it's in my head. The 29th is our setup day, and we're going to have a kickoff event at night if I'm still awake. I'm working the night before till 1 a.m. and then my flight out to Nashville leaves at 5. So cross your fingers I'm still alive. But so it's really, the event doesn't start till the 30th. So classes will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If that helps anybody with travel, it's not Thursday, Friday. I mean, it is, but it's not.
So August 29th through September 1st in Nashville. You can get tickets here at Eventbrite. Somebody in the chat says it's only a 2.5 hours away.
Yes,
that's nothing. Look, in Texas, I mean, I drive that like the drop of a hat. I'll be like, oh, that's only 2 hours away. I'll be there soon.
Yeah, for sure.
So he says, so will I learn to knit? Will I be the only dude?
Well, if I can get some of the knitters to come and teach a class, then you can learn to knit, because right now it's all sewing classes. But I did reach out to a couple painting studios, so I'm waiting to hear back from them today. We might have a painting class and knitting, whatever. Like it's a crafting event, not just a social thing or a sewing event, even though it's Social Club. Social Club.
You can find out more info at Social Club, SEWCIAL, social spelled like sew, like sewing.
Yeah.
On Facebook or at the Eventbrite link. Okay, Jen.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience today with us, and thank you guys in the chat for the 1 hour delay. Oh, G-Man, I'm sorry I missed your super chat. He says for $5, thank you. He says, I heard that the boxing match lasted only 46 seconds. It's got to be a record. It is a record. It was so fast. He punched her in the face and she said, I quit. Like, this is unjust. And yeah, you can go watch the footage. I know J.K. Rowling was sharing it, and it's really hard to watch.
Yeah, I'd rather not watch it. I'd rather not watch any current events. Like literally, I just want to go outside and do things I don't even want to sit on the computer. I've been on the computer so much with this event and making all the graphics and writing everything. I'm just like, I just want to go outside.
Well, we're about to go outside.
Yes.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for
Okay.
being here. Thank you, Jim, for being here. And we'll see you guys later. I'll be back on Monday at 1 o'clock at the regular time, 1 o'clock Central, with another live show. And if you like the video, please consider hitting like and sharing. Thank you guys so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Jen.
See ya.